All right, we're gonna work on two small but important projects next. Now that this body's on, I just kind of want to do something different, take a break, get a couple things done that I've been wanting to do. Those are the stabilizing jacks and the step to get up into this thing. Both kind of make this easier to work on because the jacks will keep it from tilting all the time, and the step just makes it easier to get in and out. So we're gonna do the jacks first. Let me show you what's going on with those. Something that I had bought a long time ago for this project, back when I thought it was gonna be really simple, was some new jacks for underneath it. I bought what are commonly referred to as scissor jacks. This has a screw on the side. A lot of cars have these for changing tires. These are pretty heavy duty ones. They're rated for 5,000 pounds each, but they're not supposed to be for lifting. They're supposed to be for stabilizing. So I had these laying around, and when I started with this frame project, these were incredibly helpful. I wish I'd had two more, but I used 4 plus some other jacks to lift the whole body. They're very quick. They were fairly stable, considering how tall they were, and they worked really well. But they're not what was originally on the Holiday Rambler. The original ones were, they kind of more had an arm that came down, and honestly I thought they looked really cool. I thought they looked a lot cooler than these. To me, I've always associated these with just like cheapo jacks. But I didn't really have another option, but I hadn't put them on yet because of the new frame project. Thankfully, while I was working on that, I just happened to stumble on what I now know is called a C-jack, and this is what the original was more like. And so this mounts on your trailer, and this arm comes up and down with this little screw here. You can use a drill, or you can use the crank that they give you, the nice little hand crank thing. But I was really pumped to find this because this is exactly what I wanted. And I think they look way cleaner when they're folded up. They're just not that noticeable. And then they also have this cool little kit where you can get a little foot pad for it that just bolts on to the bottom here, and that'll help when it's on gravel like it is right now, just stabilizing things. So these shouldn't be too bad to put on. They've come with some little self-tapping screws. I'll grab here, little self-tappers. These are basically what I was using to attach the body to the floor. So the only hard part will just be drilling above my head, laying on my back, but I think I'm gonna see if I can get these on today, or at least get one on and see how they work. All right, I thought I was gonna have a little drama here, but I think we're actually good. I've got my weld is hanging down a little bit here, and I thought that was gonna be a problem, but there's actually a raised plate on the front of this that's gonna clear that. So I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it worked out really well here. So I've got to hold this up, mark these holes, and then drill them. So I'm using a self-marking punch. I don't think that's the right word, but when you push it, it pops and it leaves a mark. So I'm just going to do my best to get this centered here and then mark my holes. I think I'm gonna probably have to do one at a time here, or at least the first one, and then get it started, because this is real awkward. There she is. So then let me grab our bit here and we'll give it a try. I'm gonna come back and put the foot pads on a little later, but I was using impact driver on this, and I realized in the instructions it says to just use the crank handle, probably because the impact driver will damage it. So I'm just gonna use a drill. There it goes. Perfect. So that's how we're gonna stabilize this thing. 1 down, 3 to go. Sweet. All right, we've got 4 stabilizer jacks on. Kind of hard to see, but there they are. Got all the pads on and everything is nice and sturdy now and walk around inside. Super pumped about that. At some point I'll probably level this thing out once the body's attached a little more. Get some blocks under the passenger wheels to get it more level and then stabilize it again. But that felt really good to be able to get that done. So that was a nice easy project. So now that the jacks are on, the next thing we're going to focus on is the step. Unfortunately, when I filmed this originally, I messed up with hitting the record button, I guess. I must have missed the first part of this. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to install this onto the new supports that I welded into the frame when I built it. This is kind of not an exact science, and I don't have great measurements as to where this goes. So it's just going to be a lot of fitting. Where this footage starts, I've already chosen to drill 2 of the holes to the best of my ability with just measuring and trying to figure it out. And then we're just going to get it adjusted and get this thing in and test it out. The rain popped up here, had a little storm come through, so I had to take a break, which was fine because I bought the wrong nuts, so I had to go to the hardware store. I've got this thing kind of pinned up here with just these front 2 bolts. I was able to open up those holes enough to make it fit, so pretty happy about that. What I want to check now is just if this is all kind of at the right height and everything. I think it probably is, although I may have to wait and see until the back bolts are in. But I'm going to take these spacers and just stick them in here and see if they'll just sit there maybe. Hoping they will. Gonna see. So now in theory here, I'm gonna fold this up and slide it in. I don't think our spacers are gonna stay. Maybe they will. All right, so we're still out a little on this from where I'd like to be. I had hoped when I test fitted it was back a little bit more than it's sitting right now, but that might not be the end of the world, because that'll mean where this material sits, it might not overlap or might not rub the way it used to. So I want to see, I'm going to line up all these rivet holes and just kind of see how this fits. It's actually a really good fit. It's pretty good there. I'd like to see it in a little bit more, but I think we might just have to let it be what it is, or I might take the right side and scoot it out a little to kind of match the left. That just might be safer. That'll keep our metal from rubbing. And I may even add like a little rubber strip or something in between once it's all painted, just so it's not rubbing. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good there. So I think, let's see. All right, so I think what I'm going to do then is I'm going to unbolt this whole thing, rebolt it without the spacers, get it sitting how it's sitting now, and then I'll flip it out and I'll mark the back 2 holes, and I'll have an exact location on them. They will be much easier because they're in the middle of a piece and not on a seam. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. All right, let's talk next steps, because there are quite a few still, even before we can start putting like the mechanicals and the guts back together of this thing. The next biggest thing is going to be doing all these curved pieces of metal that I've got laying on the ground. I got to reattach all them. That's going to be a pretty big challenge because everything's going to not quite fit the same. And I've got a few little trim pieces and things that I'm probably going to have to remake out of aluminum. So that's going to be a challenge, but that's our next biggest thing. That's, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest hurdles I have coming up. So we're going to work on that next. After that, we'll get wheel wells built and get the fenders back on. Once that has happened, we're going to move back to the inside and work on some of the carpentry items we couldn't do yet, like the back wall. And then we'll kind of see where we're at that point. At some point, I hope to get to plumbing and electrical. I don't know when that'll be, we got to get all this other stuff buttoned up first. So next up is going to be those curves.